Hi, welcome back to the Z-fari video book. It's been a couple of weeks since we've seen you, and the zombies haven't forgotten you, so I hope you haven't forgotten them. If you're sitting comfortably, we'll begin. Back at the station in Wichita, a trooper walked into Sergeant Earhart's office and put the morning's platform reports on her desk. "Is there anything else, Sergeant?" the trooper asked. Emily Earhart heard the trooper's soft voice and looked up into her soft brown eyes. "Corporal Esterhazy?" "Yes, ma'am," the young woman replied. Would you please run down to the food trucks and pick up a farmer's salad at Joe's and get yourself anything you'd like?" "Yes, ma'am, I'd be happy to. Do you want anything to drink?" "No, thanks, I've got plenty of water," Emily smiled. Corporal Esterhazy turned and smartly walked out of the sergeant's office. By the time that the trooper returned with Sergeant Earhart's lunch, Emily had read through the platform reports. Reported hits at 119th, Floodway, and the zoo. Possible zombie hordes at Navajo Pueblo and the tree farm. Other than these, all was quiet. Sergeant Earhart filled out the requisitions for verification drones for the hits and predator squadrons for the horde sightings. The sergeant thanked the trooper. She took the styrofoam container from Corporal Esterhazy and handed her the 5 requisitions in exchange. "Did you get yourself some lunch, Corporal?" "Yes, ma'am," the young woman replied, almost too softly to be understood. "What'd you get?" Maybe she would lose some of her shyness once she became more comfortable with me, Emily thought. "They had some good cheddar and a wonderful apple," the trooper replied with a little smile, allowing herself a brief look into Emily's eyes. "That's a wonderful meal," Emily said. "Please drop off these requisitions upstairs with the UAV control." Corporal Esterhazy took the requisitions, turned smartly, and left Sergeant Earhart's office. Emily dug into her salad. In the basement lab, Dr. McDougall finished his lunch of a ham and Swiss cheese sandwich on squishy white bread, yellow mustard on one slice and Miracle Whip on the other slice, a Gala apple, and 2 Oreo cookies. He washed it all down with 8 ounces of cold, filtered water. The morning had been filled with reading professional journals, editing a journal article where he was second author, and searching references to zombies in Haiti on the Freenet, I2P, and Tor darknets. After lunch, Dr. McDougall planned to continue the Phase 2 investigations into zombification on Willie. The doctor carefully folded the wax paper that had held his sandwich and put it into the Ziploc bag that had held the cookies. He twisted the stem off the apple core and put the stem into the plastic bag. Then he held the core by the bottom and bit off the top, chewing and swallowing it, seeds and all. Finally, he popped the top of the core into his mouth, chewed and swallowed it too. He took the plastic bag, filled with the inedible parts of his lunch, to the tall garbage can next to the counter where the coffee pot sat with its red light alerting all that the coffee was hot, and tossed it in. Lunch was over. Now to the scientific part of his job. He walked back to his desk and pushed a single button, calling his laboratory assistant, that tall girl, Alice, or Allison, or something like that. 30 seconds later, she walked into the lab. "Dr. McDougall? Please get 2 of the troopers to help us. We'll be unstrapping our test subject, Willie, from his tactile contact with the zombie. We will secure him to his restraint chair again and take 6 vials of blood, 1 for each of the standard tests. Then we will wheel the chair into the scanning room and conduct a CAT scan and an MRI. Then we will conduct the second part of the Phase 2 investigations." Alice, or Allison, or something like that, knew not to ask questions. The doctor would tell her what he thought that she should know. Maybe it was just that she was new in the lab. Maybe he would open up after he got to know her. In other labs where she'd worked, the team was really a team, all working together, communicating, sharing skills and knowledge in the pursuit of knowledge. She left the lab to get the troopers. The woman and the 2 men walked into the lab a moment later. Speaking to the men, Dr. McDougall said, "We'll be loosening the straps on our subject Willie from his contact with the zombie. When you separated them, please secure Willie so that he is immobile." To the woman, the doctor said, "When Willie is secure, please cut away all the fabric from his abdomen." The man and woman said almost in unison, "Yes, sir." "Then separate them, please," Dr. McDougall said. One trooper held Willie's arm while the other trooper loosened the straps that had bound the man and the zombie together, skin to skin, overnight. The trooper who held Willie's arm forced it into the armrest on the restraint chair where Willie was immobilized. The second trooper tightened the straps. Willie moaned. "Let's get the test done, please," Dr. McDougall said. The 2 troopers pushed Willie's chair into a small room off the lab. McDougall's lab assistant took 6 vials of blood and placed them in envelopes to be sent off for analysis. Then she hung a saline bag on a hook. She wrapped a rubber tube around Willie's arm and poked to find a vein. Then when she found a likely one, she inserted a catheter that was attached to the end of the tube from the saline bag into Willie's arm. She turned to the refrigerator behind her and found a vial of contrast and a syringe. She inserted the syringe into the vial and drew off some of the saline into the syringe. Then she injected the contrast into the tube coming from the saline bag and an IV push. She gave Willie 15 minutes to deplete the saline bag and get the contrast into his bloodstream. She left him for a minute and then opened the doors at the end of the little room to reveal 2 huge metal tubes, an MRI, and a cat. She pushed Willie's chair into one tube and closed the door. She adjusted some controls and pushed a button. For about 5 minutes there was a terrible clanking noise. She pushed the button again. After another 5 minutes she shut down the machine. She repeated the process with the other giant tube. Blood taken? Check. Scans completed? Check. She called the troopers in to push Willie back into the lab beside the zombie. The zombie's restraint chair was touching Willie's. The lab assistant took a pair of stainless steel scissors and cut away the fabric of Willie's shirt from under his arms all the way to his waist. The skin on his big belly all the way up to his meaty breasts was exposed. "Ready, doctor," she said. "Troopers, loosen the straps on the zombie's left arm. Once the excoriation has occurred, the zombie's arm must be secured again and the chairs separated." "Excoriation, doctor?" the larger of the 2 troopers asked. "Scratching, trooper. The zombie will scratch Willie's abdomen. Maybe that's the method of transmission of zombification. We will see." The troopers moved to hold the zombie's arm and release it from its restraining straps. The zombie growled and flailed its arm as soon as it was able to move it. The zombie lashed out and hit Willie's arm and then hit Willie's belly. Willie exhaled and moaned, and then he began to whimper. The zombie heard his cries and flailed out again, this time lightly scratching Willie's stomach near his navel. Willie howled. The zombie moved its hands out slowly to determine what was next to it. It found Willie's soft, pale, bloated skin. The zombie grunted in satisfaction and slowly pushed its fingers into Willie's stomach. Willie wailed in a higher register as the zombie pushed its nails into Willie's abdomen. The zombie broke Willie's skin, and Willie's blood pooled in the gouges the zombie had made. The zombie pulled its hand away and then slammed it back into the bloody furrows it had made. It pushed deeper into the gashes that now covered Willie's body from his sternum to below his navel. Some scratches were hardly noticeable, while others penetrated the dermis, the epidermis, and even the hypodermis, exposing fat, small blood vessels, and even connective tissue. 1 or 2 of the zombie's tearings over Willie's ribs went to the bone. By this time, Willie was too shocked to scream. He sobbed quietly. Dr. McDougall said, "That's enough. Secure the zombie's arm again." The 2 troopers muscled the zombie's arm back onto the restraint chair's armrest and succeeded in securing the straps that immobilized its arm. Dr. McDougall asked them to step aside, and he checked their work, pointing out that the wrist strap could be tightened further. The troopers, having seen the strength of a zombie, were quick to make the undie secure. "Thank you, troopers. You're dismissed," the doctor said. "Shall I clean the subject's wounds, doctor?" the assistant asked. "No," he said. "Tomorrow we'll wipe off the dry blood to better examine the type and depth of the excoriations. But for now, we will see if zombification will ensue with this type of attack. And again tomorrow we will run blood tests and scans. That's all for today, Alice." "Allison, sir," she said, and left the lab to clean up and go home to her husband. Tonight he would make her a drink. The doctor stayed another hour at his desk, making notes and planning phase 3.